Alrighty, so let's go ahead and talk about Nick Fuentes again. Because apparently there are some people thinking that he's been unpersoned. Specifically Michael Knowles, as well as many others, have been arguing that. Despite the fact that Nick Fuentes is literally one of the worst, most degenerate people in the entire world. I'm not even saying degenerate in a funny haha way. No, this is a guy who literally thinks that you and your loved one should probably be gas chambered. So, before we do that, though, let's go ahead and check the fan art section, and then we will be going forward with the episode as per usual. So, we have... You fucking heretic. And this one was submitted by Calmondo. Thank you very much for the fan art submission. As always, if you want fan art to be shown on the channel, the best way you can do that is dropping it into the fan art section of the Discord server, links of which are available down below. Alrighty, with that said, let us pop in here. Michael Knowles says, the swift and utter unpersoning of Nick Fuentes should worry anyone who in any way contradicts the dominant liberal regime. Has Nick Fuentes been unpersoned, and was it because he contradicts the liberal regime? No, that's not why. Shark Fox Panda also says, for 100 bits, Fuentes stands are going to come for you, Suris. You know they watch your channel. Good. Fucking Nick Fuentes stands. Go ahead. Comment in the comment section. Leave your dislikes. Report your videos. Do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. You're all impotent and have limp dicks. For those who haven't followed the story, unpersoning does not refer to his Twitter ban. He's been kicked off of every social media platform, reportedly banned from every financial institution, and placed on the no-fly list without ever being charged with a crime. So, Michael Knowles should probably know that you don't need to be charged with a crime to be placed on the no-fly list. You just have to be deemed a federal threat, and of course, Nick Fuentes is considered a federal threat. He is engaged in enough shit on the platform, and literally said that he, in a joking manner, but literally said that he would shake hands with, see hand motion that he engaged in, shoot personnel who were working at airlines. Yeah, no, he's going to be on a no-fly list after saying he'd kill everybody working on an airline. I'm sorry, Michael Knowles. I understand you're very stupid, so it's very hard to understand this, but when you say on a public platform that you would willingly kill the people who work on an airline, the least thing that can happen is you being put on a no-fly list so that you are not a threat to the people on those airlines. If he wants to go somewhere, he can drive. If he wants to leave the country, at this point, fuck it, he can swim. Okay? As for being kicked off of every social media platform, that is the same thing as being knocked off of Twitter. You're knocked off social media. You existed before social media, you will exist after social media. You'll be okay. And after that, banned from every major financial institution. If they're just talking about him being knocked out of shit like PayPal, the dude can still have a bank account. Okay? What's happened is he's not allowed to... He's being slowly eroded. He's not allowed to make money off of being a Nazi on the internet. And I'm meaning that in a literal sense. He's a Holocaust-denying anti-Semite. Like, yeah, no, he's definitely a Nazi. He's even fucking Sarah right here pointed out that, yeah, no, he's a fucking Nazi. All of these places are private institutions, Michael. If you're going to be the economic conservative you claim you are, then maybe it should be a good idea to understand that these institutions, unless you were to make them public access, like publicly owned, then this is perfectly normal. But we actually have a Forbes article going into all of this, so we will look at everything that has gone on here as well. Michael's just a baby? Yes, Michael's just a baby. Michael is just a baby. Top line, Nick Fuentes, the 22-year-old leader of a white nationalist group who was embraced by Representative Paul Gosar, was suspended by Twitter on Friday, one of the last platforms that had yet to banish the far-right rising star. Twitter confirmed it banned Fuentes after repeated violations of its rules without offering further information. Oh, cool. So he literally just violated terms of service. Boy, that sucks. God, I wish I could care. The Anti-Defamation League on Thursday published an article on its blog entitled Things to Know About Nicholas J. Fuentes, 5 Things to Know. We will take a look at that here in a second. Fuentes responded on his Telegram account claiming that Twitter suspended him because of the ADL report, saying he was permanently suspended hours later. Okay, so this is a post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy. The ADL report is not the only thing that would have been utilized in determining whether or not you would be allowed to maintain your time on that platform. You had repeated terms of service violations. That would be the reason you were knocked off that platform, Nick. I understand that, like Michael, you're very stupid, and it is very hard to understand this point, and I get it. It's a point that would be hard for any 5-year-old to understand. But if you accept a terms of service and then you violate that terms of service, then your ability to utilize the platform that you agreed to the terms of service on can be taken away. I get it. Contractual obligations like that are very difficult. They're very difficult. They're like first grade level difficult, and I know that puts it in a category well outside your ability. But it's okay. In April, Twitter banned an account associated with Fuentes' political group, America First, and Fuentes is, of course, banned by YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, Spotify, Venmo, Stripe, and Clubhouse, among others, according to the Chicago Tribune. Let's look at the ADL article real quick. Let's take a look at all that real quick. Nick Fuentes, 5 things to know. He's a white supremacist leader and organizer and a podcaster who seeks to forge a white nationalist alternative to the mainstream GOP. Nick Fuentes first gained widespread notoriety in 2017 when he left Boston University after reportedly receiving threats tied to his attendance at the white supremacist Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. He has since become a prominent white supremacist pundit and organizer who has united disparate groups within what was recently known as the alt-right. In 2017, Fuentes began hosting a live stream show known as America First, which attracted a cult-like following. Fuentes refers to their supporters as Groypers, or the Groyper Army, who see their bigoted views as necessary to preserve white, European, American identity and culture. They believe that the mainstream conservative movement is just as responsible as liberals and the left for destroying white America, and the Groypers are the true future of the conservative movement. What is the next thing it has to know here? Nick Fuentes believes that he is working to defend against leftist cultural changes and are destroying the true America, which is a white Caucasian nation. While Fuentes promotes white supremacist beliefs, he adamantly claims not to be a white supremacist, calling that term an anti-white slur. Rather, he positions himself as a Christian conservative who opposes societal shifts on immigration, abortion, and more as nefarious acts, led by the left, fundamentally to erode Americans' Christian values. This cloaking of ideology is a ploy to attract mainstream support and to distract from the group's fundamentally white supremacist ideology. The American regime used tech censorship, a COVID hoax, election fraud, and Capitol false flag to put down the revolt started by Trump in 2016 and ensure it can't happen again. So this is literally just QAnon shit. Trump is a superhero, and the establishment did everything in their power to get rid of Trump because Trump was trying to save us from the enemy, typically put in fucking echoes, which, you know, everybody here should know what that means. Fuentes has used his platforms to make numerous anti-Semitic and racist comments. Yep, we already know about that shit. Here's a quote from him. What's really important to understand is that this crisis in race relations in the country is basically amounts to black failure. And how do we explain the continued disparity in just about every measure between the races? Libertarians think it's politically expedient to just hand wave this stuff away with economic freedom zones and liberalization and stuff like this. The problem is that if race realism is true, no policy will ever succeed in closing these gaps. Meanwhile, the non-white population is getting emboldened and impatient and in larger numbers. And larger in numbers. There's a whole bunch of shit wrapped up in here. The non-white population getting larger in numbers is part of the white erasure myth. The idea that white people are basically being fucked out of existence. And that they have to keep their genes pure. This is the great replacement theory at the end here. Said Echo? Yes, Trevor, echoes. Here, I will show you, for those who don't know, echoes. The echo. This right here. So if somebody says, let's say somebody types something into a search bar, or onto a search bar, but somebody types out something and they say, like, the enemy, but they put the enemy in these brackets here, these 3 brackets, these are the echoes. The echoes, these 3 parentheses, are to signal that this person is Jewish. So if somebody says, and I'm sure you've probably seen this at some point before, if somebody goes, we will just go to Google Docs real quick. We will go to Google Docs, and this is not what I wanted to open up, but I just want regular. So let's say, and we'll turn this really big so that people can see it. If somebody says the enemy, but they write it like this, they are denoting that the person is Jewish. If they say Hollywood, they are trying to say that Hollywood is controlled by Jewish people. If they say big tech, they are trying to say that big tech is controlled by the Jews. That's what the echoes means. It's an anti-Semitic dog whistle that if you don't understand what it means, it just looks like you're trying to put emphasis on something. But if you pal around in these circles a little bit, you automatically know that, oh, they mean they're the Jews, and the Jews are my enemy twos. That's kind of what they want you to get out of this. So, there's your quick thing on the echoes. Who's the first person to come up with that? Fuck if I know. Said never heard about this. Here. This is old 4chan and poll shit. As a result, there's even Jewish people on Twitter who have put their own names in echoes so as to stand in solidarity against people who are using the echoes to target other Jewish people. Basically, putting the target on themselves so that it's not on other people. That's the idea there. Or other people doing it just to make themselves look like they're Jewish so that there's more people that they would have to try to target, making anti-Semite numbers be spread more thin on harassment. All kinds of things. There's a whole fucking history behind the usage of the echoes. But, continuing on here, what else is in here that we need to look at specifically? We've got the race realism shit. This is stuff like the bell curve, the idea that black people are lesser smarter than the white people, which is, based on fucking pseudoscience and a misapplication of IQ. IQ is not an accurate measuring device of intellect or ability. Same as you see on Twitter, it obscure targets for the same reason. Yep. Yeah, bell curve was disproven long ago. Because it relies on IQ, and IQ is not an accurate measurement of several different ways in which we would utilize intelligence. Fuentes promoted election fraud narratives and encouraged his adherents to participate in nationwide Stop the Steal protests. We already know about that shit. We don't have to go too much further into that. Fuentes has embraced and been praised by a spectrum of far-right fringe conservatives, providing him a larger platform for elevating the America First movement. Which, while this one is true, I'm not going to dig into this because the people who support him are less important than the dude him fucking self. Key background. Fuentes has been labeled a white supremacist by the FBI in a court document and white nationalist organizer by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Oh, really? Interesting. We have an actual court document to look at from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This affidavit is submitted in support of a criminal complaint charging Christian Secure with criminal conduct. Okay, so we need... Okay, page 5. Yep, figure 4 describes Secor as a groyper. The groypers are a network of alt-right figures who are vocal supporters of white supremacist and America First podcaster Nick Fuentes. Right here, when the FBI is labeling who an individual is, the group they're associating him with is the groypers. And the groypers Nick Fuentes' group, and the FBI is strictly labeling him as a white supremacist at that point. Do you want to know why you're on a no-fly list? You've been labeled as a national threat, Nick. This is why you're a national threat. Maybe be less of a white supremacist, you wouldn't be a fucking national threat. But we have an actual fucking FBI document going into this. Isn't that fucking neat? We've got the white nationalist organizer part from the Southern Poverty Law Center, which we can look up right here. Meet the white nationalist organizer who spewed hate against lawmakers. And the entire thing is right here from the SPLC. Usually, people who hate the SPLC also engage in being on hate groups as well. Speaking of, when I covered, what was his name? Pastor Mike Winger. There we go. When I was covering Mike Winger and I was using SPLC articles to disprove a lot of the dumb shit he said, somebody got on my case for using that, and of course that somebody tended to be quite the Christian nationalist, as we found out through later comments. That was from 2.5 years ago. There's some fun channel lore. Anyway, he attended both Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville and the rallies in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, leading to the Capitol riot. He rose to prominence through his online show America First with Nicholas J. Fuentes, which he began live streaming in 2017. He's an avowed member of the Groyper Army, which the ADL describes as a white supremacy group. As a political event earlier this year, he warned the U.S. was losing its white demographic core and called the Capitol riot attack awesome. He previously defended segregation, denied the Holocaust, denied parts of the Holocaust is what it reads here, but he's done the entire fucking cookie joke. For those who don't know the cookie joke and don't know what that means, here, let's go into it real quick. If I say that Grandma has to bake 6 million cookies, and there's only 8 ovens that she can use to bake these 6 million cookies, and, you know, she's only got so many hands to help her, but she's got some helpers to bake these 6 million cookies, and she's only got 4 years to bake 6 million cookies at a rate of 1,000 cookies per day for each of these different ovens. Will Grandma be able to bake 6 million cookies at 1,000 cookies per day? That's the amount that these 8 ovens can produce. I just don't think the math works out. The math doesn't work out at all. How would Grandma possibly bake 6 million cookies in that amount of time if she's only able to make 1,000 a day there? The math doesn't work out, and you get the point. It's literally trying to use bogus math to say that the Holocaust didn't happen because there's no way that all of those people could have been killed. For those who haven't heard his cookie joke, there it is. And Moonstar says, don't forget about his advocacy for pedophilia. Yep, we went over his child marriage thing in the Matt Gaetz video where he was saying the real conservative position is marrying children. And, you know, I can support that. He said that is the hardest brain rot argument. It is. It is a brain rot argument, but it's his argument. That he used the Cookie Monster in his version of it. Fair. Going forward here, at a political event earlier, he warned the U.S. Okay, we already went over all that. 2 days before the Capitol riot, Fuentes suggested killing legislators who refused to vote to overturn the 2020 election before walking the idea back. What can you and I do to a legislator besides kill them, he said on his live stream. We should not do that. I'm not advising that, but I mean, what else can you do, right? There's a term that you need to understand when you're looking at this, and it's called stochastic terrorism. You can literally have an entire fucking group of people that decide to do shit like this because they heard what you said, they believed it, and they decided to go take action. This is why when people start talking about violence in my live streams, I usually am very quick to tell them to shut the fuck up. Talking about that is not allowed on my live streams, it's not allowed in my Discord, and it's because I do not want to be held responsible, nor do I think it is ethical to violently attack people trying to do their job despite, regardless of what their political affiliation is. I'm sorry. I do not think that you should have to fear violence. You should fear being knocked off of your throne. You should fear being voted out. But if democracy is going to function, it can't also have violent upheavals from the people doing their shit. And if you want to upsub because I don't support violence, then go the fuck ahead. I don't care. But yeah, we actually went over the video where he was suggesting killing legislators as well. So let's go ahead and say, if I am the FBI and I am determining who's on a no-fly list, and I'm trying to figure out how to determine if somebody should be on a no-fly list, being on a public platform and saying that it'd be a good idea to kill legislators, despite your inability to advise that, maybe, just maybe, that's a reason why you've been knocked out, knocked onto the no-fly list. So this is the prime example of doublespeak. Well, yeah, when he's saying, I don't mean kill legislators, but Also, Satan Blow Me, thank you very much for the follow. Mike is too bloody hungry. Wait, my mic is too bloody hungry? Surprising fact, Fuentes was verified on Twitter and had more than 125,000 followers on the platform before he was suspended on Friday. Activists have tried for months to deplatform him before Friday. Gosser drew controversy last month after Fuentes circulated a flyer advertising an America First fundraiser headlined by the Arizona Republican, which included a picture of the two men sitting next to each other. After initially brushing criticism aside, Gosar, who previously attended events with Fuentes, denied knowledge of the event. How very politician of you. And yes, the real reason he's not allowed on airplanes is because the bees have determined him unworthy. God damn it. Bee Theory has invaded my live streams. Channel Pup, you are to blame for all of this. At least one Fuentes critic attacked the Twitter ban, said Nick Fuentes has been a giant troll, and dishonest in his attacks against me. Ohio GOP candidate J.D. Vance tweeted following Fuentes' ban. Says, don't care. Tech companies control what we're allowed to say in our own country. It has to stop. Okay, so maybe Ohio GOP Senate candidate J.D. Vance. Jesus Christ, Ohio keeps coming up recently. Y'all guys okay over there? Anyway, maybe it would be a good idea, Senate candidate J.D. Vance. We'll just keep on referring to you by that entire title. Maybe it'd be a good idea for you to not speak against deplatforming the literal Nazi who gets to create more Nazis by being platformed. Consequentialism is much easier to determine this shit by. Cyrus Joe says, B Theory, check out Sunset City. If you want to know more about B Theory, I will not be describing it here. Go on to Sunset City. That's a podcast I do with Game Apologist, Channel Pup, and Wayne as Boss, where we talk about blue hedgehogs and shit. Said it has to stop. Leading up to his ban on Twitter, Fuentes had taken aim at Vance over comments he made that were critical of Trump. Vance has since apologized for those comments. Aww, what a poor little Trump simp. So yeah, there's the Forbes article going into the key facts here. We, of course, have the FBI document showing that they do deem him to be a leader of a white nationalist movement. We have the SPLC article here that you guys can read at your own leisure if you so choose. And, of course, we have the 5 facts from ADL here, because people have been documenting everything on Nick Fuentes for quite a while. So, unpersoned? No. I don't think that's the case. Should private companies be forced to give their airwave time, as it were, to Nick? No, they shouldn't. Just as before the age of social media, any public access television show could knock you off of the air if you started espousing shit like this, the private companies that hold access for Twitter and Facebook and other places can do the exact same thing. If you want to advocate for these private companies having, any modicum of power over their own shit, then maybe you can go ahead and fight for that. But the United States courts, as of right now, have not determined that any of these private companies have taken on the role of the public forum, because the public forum is still accessible outside of that. You can still get out on a pedestal out in public and say shit. You can still do that. And in many communities, it's far more effective than going on to Twitter. Why hasn't Nick been taken in by the FBI? Because he'd have to commit a crime. He'd have to commit a crime for that to happen. As for now, he's just on their watch list. That said, though, if you guys found any of this informative, if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed any of this, then please let me know in the comment section below. Let me know in the chat over at Twitch if you are over there. And as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.